good Wednesday morning. Both the Mets and Yankees back in action last night, and two great performances by the starting pitchers, two shutouts as they continue to roll. And I tell you, this Pete Alonso, he was this close to being out with a broken hand for I don't know how long. He does not get a broken hand. He's back in the lineup, and he's driving in runs again last night. We talk so much about that Aaron Judge contract because he's a unrestricted free agent coming up, but if Steve Cohen and the Mets want to avoid a situation like that, I'd sign the guy right now in an extension. I'd go to him right now in an extension because if you play this out another 2 more years with him, he might be getting a $500 million contract because he's that good. He's been that good for them. These two teams are carrying us through this early summer and hopefully deep into October. Good morning, Boomer. How are you?
You know what? I'm doing great, G. And it was great to see that both, Garrett Cole and your boy Chris Bassett got out there and did what they did last night. You know, the Yankees win a game without scoring an earned run.
Yep.
You know, that says Yankees Rays. That has Yankees Rays all over it.
Sure.
So it was good to see both those guys do what they were doing, especially Bassett because, you know, Bassett had been roughed up. And then after the game, he basically said, look, man, I haven't been on the same page with the catchers. You know, and I had to work on some things.
Fault.
He said it was his fault. He took ownership of it. This is why you like him. I know that. I know you didn't appreciate the 3 previous outings.
Well, the 5 previous outings.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. But, you know, whatever he had to work through, he worked through, and he pitched his ass off last night. And he came against a team that is kind of reeling a little bit right now, but nonetheless still a good team.
Sure.
And the Mets get off to a good start. The Atlanta Braves are still right there. Still winning because, remember, their schedule is such that they should be winning these games. And they're taking care of business. Then when the Mets' schedule flips and they start playing some of these bad teams, like they did earlier in the year, they'll have to take care of business as well. And you know, the Braves are going to have to go through the gauntlet eventually. But then I still think it's going to come down to them because, you know, and Gary was saying it last night, that this is kind of where the Braves made their move last year, and this is where the Mets sunk. And I was just thinking to myself that, you know, as they were showing the picture of DeGrom and Scherzer,
yeah,
and they're there. They're nice and tan. They look great, although they're not 100%. And I guess Scherzer said he's about 90% back. But it just feels like because Buck Showalter's in that dugout, it just feels different, and it feels like he's going to keep the team treading water or above the waterline, stay in front of the Braves, and then get those 2 great arms back in the mix over maybe the next 3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah,
that's what it kind of feels to me, and it just feels different than it did last year.
Oh, of course, and then also knowing that Steve Cohen is not going to shy away from anything at the trade deadline, and I believe the quote was, anything is possible at the trade deadline. He's not going to put the brakes on any sort of deal for any reason. Maybe prospects. I don't know if there's going to be someone that may be untouchable in the organization, but certainly not any money. As we know and we have learned from Steve Cohen, there's not going to be a financial restriction on him at the deadline.
It's interesting he says that, but you say that and he says that. I mean, you know, with the stock market going which way it's going, I'm trying to figure out how much money .72 has lost over the last maybe 3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah,
you know,
but
there's a report out there that there have been trillions of dollars that have been lost. And I would think that if you are a billionaire in this current environment, that you have significant, massive losses due to, you know, the losses that are going on, you know, in the general economy.
He's
right
still
now.
got enough to go pick up an extra.
Well, I hope so. I hope you're right, bro. I hope you're right. I'm just saying that, you know, we are heading into financial times, or we've been in financial times for about a year now, but we're heading into even worse financial times by the time July 1st comes running around, and hopefully, you know, he's doing well. Hopefully, .72 Asset Management is managing their assets the right way, as opposed to worrying about the analytics of a baseball team. And they'll have money to spend, and they'll be more than happy to spend it. So hopefully, you know, that's going to be the case because that's what we're all hoping for. And when he took over the team, that's what we all thought about. But we also weren't thinking about, you know, recession, inflation, stock market collapsing, all the things that are going on right now.
You're telling me that Steve Cohen now, because of the economy, is not going to go out and add a player at the trade deadline?
I'm just saying.
Come on.
You just don't know what the losses are and what they potentially could be. That's all I'm saying.
No, I'm sure.
What the realities of what is going on. Like, we are always distracted by sports, which is great, which is why we love doing what we do. We love getting up here every morning and talking about the sports of the day and how players performed and management decisions and manager decisions and coaches' decisions and the movement of players. Do you sign players? Don't you sign players? I mean, there's a million things that go on that we love talking about. And it's a great distraction. It really is. Mm-hmm. But, one of the other kind of, pieces of all of this, and it goes for all owners, not just, Steve Cohen, is that, there have been trillions that have been lost over the last couple of months. You got to realize that. And, you just wonder how that affects a company like Point 72 Asset Management. That's all I'm saying. Whether or not it's going to affect whether or not they're going to be able to sign or trade somebody that's going to be making $10 million the rest of the year. I'm assuming they will, because that's what he has said, and everything that he has said, I would like to think has come true.
Yeah.
And there's no reason not to believe that he'll do it again if he has to.
Imagine if there's a post-trade deadline press conference and the Mets don't do anything, and Steve Cohen sits there and they ask him the question, "Why didn't you do anything, Steve?" And he's like, "Man, you see these gas prices? Man, I tell you, that's why. Couldn't add anything. This damn inflation's got me so screwed up.
I'm so wrapped up in supply chain.
So wrapped up in supply chain stuff, we couldn't go out there and bolster our bullpen.
And we couldn't get baby formula.
We couldn't get baby formula.
The aspect of the Grom and Scherzer coming back is like what?
Acquiring the two best pitchers in baseball at the trade deadline.
Right, exactly.
Yep.
So that's also this is what makes what they're doing right now, whether it be Pete Alonso, Jeff McNeil, Brandon Nimmo, Eduardo Escobar, Starling Marte, Thomas Nido, whoever it is, Francisco Lindor, whatever they are doing, they're doing with a winning attitude. And I know they're 6-5 in their last 11, so it sounds a little bit overkill, but they're missing their two best players.
Not the best record in the National League.
True, but I'm just 6-5 over their last 11. Is an average. So now they got to take care of business here. They got to continue to win series, and when those two pitchers come back, I'm telling you, there's going to be such, excitement around the team. Like you could feel it from the fan base. You could feel it from watching last night's game.
Oh, sure, yeah.
I mean, there's a legitimate expectation, and I felt like this as the season went on with the Rangers. I felt like there was a legitimate expectation that they were going to win, and they did. And I feel like I have that kind of same feeling where we are with the Mets right now. I feel like they're going to win.
If you're a Met or Yankee ticket broker right now, things are good. I bet you there's a lot of people that are looking forward, especially when school gets out. They're probably buying plans. They're doing everything. They're trying to get in for the playoffs. I bet you that they are.
I hope they are.
Well, look, the attendance has been pretty good. Early on this year. Considering.
It would 2 years ago have been off the charts.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's a little bit different world.
There's a little different world that we live in right now. Yeah. But the other thing too is that watching like Garrett Cole last night. Mm-hmm. That's supposed to be Scherzer and DeGrom for us.
Yeah,
and we don't even have those guys yet, and that's why I feel like this thing is building. And there have been moments this year that we've already seen where they've won games where maybe in the past they wouldn't have won games. They've come back in games. How many times the Rangers came back from, in a deficit during a game, and they ended up winning games, and there are so many of those signature types of games that happen, and I know that Ronnie and Keith talk about it all the time. Okay, this is a moment in time where this is a special moment. It's one of 162 games, but nonetheless, it's a moment that we haven't had in the last few years. So it kind of leads you to believe that this team believes that it is really a good team and they can win without their two best pitchers.
Yeah, you get that same feeling with the Yankees as well. We have talked about the Yankees even in previous years when they have won during the regular season, that they've done it sort of in ho-hum fashion, or they're a boring team, or they just hit a bunch of home runs or whatever it is. The only time that they were exciting is when young guys got called up and overachieved when the big guys went down with injury. But it's been the exact opposite this year. They're either bludgeoning people, or their games are fun. You're getting contributions from people all over the place. Kiner Falefa with a big RBI last night. Trevino has been great throughout the year. Matt Carpenter, picking him up was like another one of those Brian Cashman things that has worked out during the season. So both of these teams,
trying to think, what would they want at the trade deadline? Obviously, a bullpen arm or two, I guess.
Yeah, the Mets and Yankees are definitely both going to be fighting for that together at the trade deadline.
Okay, well, the one thing I will say
against one another, rather,
and I think we talked a little bit about it yesterday, was the fact that everybody was all over Brian Cashman in the preseason. Mm-hmm. Everybody. Yeah. Everybody screaming and yelling that you got to get rid of this guy, get rid of that guy. This one sucks. Bring Gardner back. Get this guy out of here.
I don't think anybody said bring Gardner back.
No. There was a definitely, because people were getting tired of Aaron Hicks.
Yeah.
And then they bring Carpenter in, and then he has this little run he goes on. So people kind of forget that because the team is winning. I mean, they're the guys that are going to get hammered by the fans. We know that, but I think about what we were talking. You said yesterday we were talking about Aaron. What would you trade Aaron Judge at the trade deadline
if they were out of it? Yeah, if they fell out of it because the Rays and the Blue Jays and the Red Sox were so much better and they were a fourth place team in the division, would you consider a John Tavares deal? Like that was one of the conversations we were having.
Yeah, but why were we saying that? What was the prevailing thought out there amongst Yankee fans?
That they were going to be worse than last year. You felt like they barely squeaked in last year into the postseason. They were going to be worse, and they might be on the outside looking in because they got off to a little bit of a slow start in their first 4 or 5 games, whatever it was. And It was sort of like, man, this is just not going to go well.
Do you remember when Al was saying, stop it with the offensive line?
Yeah.
That whole whiny nasally.
Stop it with the offensive
line. Oh, my God. He had whiny, nasally, narpian.
I don't talk like that.
Sure.
Excuse me. Yes, you do. When you get really into it's a stage that you get into. And I don't know how to describe it.
It's like I don't know. He goes into he's like, stop it with the offensive line. Like he gets siren-y, in a little bit.
See, whatever you did there, you just. So you got into something there. I don't know. How would you explain that about yourself?
Yeah, I guess I speak through my nose, right? At that
a little
point.
nasally, but annoyed. Like it's an annoyed, nasally sounding.
Yeah, like it's enough already.
Yeah,
right. So, I kind of remember at the beginning of the year, like you had it with all the detractors towards Brian Cashman.
Did he?
Yes, he was. He was very, very annoyed.
Okay.
With the word that we like to use nowadays in the world of media and communications and journalism, the narrative that was coming out of training camp and the lockout.
He was triggered by the narrative. There you go.
Yeah.
That's 2022 for you right there.
Right.
Yeah.
That's true. It was so true.
Triggered by the narrative.
And I noticed the nasally Al Dukes, the whiny biatch, nasally.
The whiny biatch.
Like just completely. I don't know what all these noises he makes when he gets like that. So, I mean, and now you got the best record in baseball, a team that's just flying high, playing great, and can anybody bitch about anything right now?
No, not at all. I mean, it really is amazing. I mean, you would have thought, even with this 13-game winning streak with the Braves and them cutting the division lead down to where it's at, I still feel like most of Met fans are comfortable.
Well, I said that about the Met fans, but I'm talking about the Yankee fans.
I know. So what I'm saying is there's nothing to bitch about. There's certainly nothing to bitch about with the Yankees, not even a single thing. So, like, both teams right now, you've got no complaints.
None. For me, as a Met fan, it's really about Scherzer and DeGrom coming back, man, and we're going to be locked and loaded, man.
Yeah.
We're going to be locked and loaded.
Well, I mean, can you really count on Jacob DeGrom, though?
Yes.
You can? Oh, you can.
Oh, yeah.
You're
confident. Why?
Because
he's going to opt out. He's going to pull it. I'm opting out after I pitch 10, games here in the second half of the season and lead the team to the World Series. He's going to win, and next thing you know, he's going to opt out, and Met fans are going to be going crazy that we have to resign him. That I could foresee that, like, that is coming.
I mean, I hope it plays out that way.
Well, and I could also foresee it with Aaron Judge. When his arbitration day comes, like something's happening that day. It's coming. I don't know what it is, but something's happening that day. There's either going to be an antagonistic reaction to it, or there's going to be a kumbaya moment where everybody comes together and they got Aaron Judge for the next 7 years after this year.
I mean, that would be something else. They came out of that arbitration hearing with a long-term deal. I know you've been talking about it, and it's probably the smart thing to do.
Insane. I've been talking about it since the beginning of the year.
I know, but I just, it's hard for me to believe that the Yankees, with the deal that they offered and the way that it went in the preseason right up until opening day, that they're just going to all of a sudden turn on a dime because he had a great, first couple of months.
Let me just tell you something, man. He is one of the best players in baseball. He is their own player. They drafted him. They developed him. He has been great, and I don't know what else to tell you. He is hitting it at the right time. That's all I can tell you.
I'm not saying anything against him. I'm just saying the Yankees, the way that they handled it and the way that they stuck to their guns
I thought they were pretty
on,
fair. I thought they were pretty fair.
Makes me think they're not going to change their mind.
What I didn't like, and this is it goes back just to communication, right? You got to talk to people.
Yeah,
you got to understand where they're coming from. And sometimes you can't do it on a Zoom. Sometimes you got to do it face to face.
Face to face.
And you have to understand where each other's coming from. Mm-hmm. And when the Yankees, dropped on the masses on opening day, that they made this massive offer in their eyes to Aaron Judge, they put Aaron Judge in a really, really tough situation. Because Aaron Judge, this is his one real true bite at the proverbial spending apple. Mm-hmm. And we could all argue about what he's going to be like when he's 37 and 38. We all know about his injury history, but there is no denying the greatness of him as a baseball player and the face of the Yankee franchise. He is their player. He should be in Monument Park when this is all over said and done with 8 years from now. And he should be celebrated as a great Yankee. Now, I know he has to be a big part of why the Yankees win a World Series, which hasn't been the case yet. But I do think that they're well on their way of getting there. And if I had to put, my soothsaying glasses on, they're going to regret this arbitration hearing if they don't come through it with a much better offer and don't fight over this pittance amount of money and pay the guy. I mean, because people are coming to Yankee Stadium to see him. You can say whatever you want about Gerrit Cole and Stanton. I'm just telling you, people come to New York to go to Yankee Stadium to now see Aaron Judge. He is the marquee player.
Sure, absolutely.
On the marquee franchise in the entire sport.
Can't let him go anywhere else. If he's in a San Francisco Giants uniform next year, if this is like the next Mookie Betts situation, him leaving the Red Sox to go out west, it would be a disgrace. All right, Boomer and Gio on the Fan.